So we'll continue with the role of Abhyasi. Travel light. Travel light is the general advice of the railway department to all train travelers, with a view to offer greatest convenience to fellow passengers. The same may apply in the case of travelers on the path of realization. We know we are proceeding on along the path, overburdened with the weight of our belongings existing in the form of sanskaras, etc. Now, in order to have a convenient journey, we need to be relieved of it. It can be done in two ways. Firstly, as when traveling by train, we book the heavy luggage with the guard of the train. So also in this journey, we may give over the heavy luggage to the charge of the master and be relieved of its weight. That, in other words, conveys the idea of surrender. When we have surrendered all our belongings to the master, we are free from the encumbering weight thereof. The other method may be to go on setting them aside bit by bit by undergoing their bhog. But that would be a long and tedious process and very difficult also. Anyhow, we have, after all, to become lighter than the lightest. I want you all to take this point into consideration and to act accordingly. Time never comes again. We must therefore utilize it to our best advantage. As a true follower of the great master, I have nothing to offer except a little support together with my good wishes. I do not mean to induce anyone to give up his worldly belongings and bid farewell to his domestic living, but only to attend to everything in the sense of duty entrusted to him by the Divine Master. That is, in fact, the real life and the only solution of all the difficulties, whether spiritual or temporal. For that, I expect everyone to put his best efforts. I may also assure you that the attainments you make during the period of my physical existence will be of value to you after I am gone. But if you neglect it now, dwelling in the idea that you shall have it by developing attachment with me even after I am gone from this material world, it may then be a hard nut to crack. A moth burns itself on a live flame, but there may rarely be one that can burn itself on a dead flame, which is almost an impossibility. There may, however, be exceptions to it, but rare, very rare indeed. The only solution, therefore, will be either to get up to the level where burning in a dead flame may become possible and practicable, or to attain that higher state where the question of burning may not arise at all. But this depends upon God's grace and one's own bold efforts. Anything to add and any questions on this travel light? So we'll go ahead then.
Sir, I have a small query.
Yes, sister.
But if you neglect it, not dwelling in the idea that you should have You shall have it by developing attachment with me even after I am gone from this material world. It may then be a hard nut to crack. What does it mean, sir?
When a guru is physically present
Right,
in the
sir.
physical body,
Right, sir.
his mind will be active, working in this plane where our mind is working. I mean, consciousness has got several planes, like commonly we know of waking state of consciousness, dream state of consciousness,
right, sir.
and deep sleep state of consciousness.
Right, sir.
And there are several other lokas are also there. The 7 lokas up and 7 lokas down. There is Pitru Loka, Deva Loka, Brahma Loka, and all that.
Right, sir.
Each consciousness operates under certain circumstances, actually. So when a guru is there, physically present, he's at our plane. When I can ask him, take his advice. Suppose I have a problem of undue attachment to my body or to my property, which is preventing me from reaching my goal. I can go and ask him, you remove this problem. He'll easily remove it.
Right, sir.
So, but when he's gone from the physical world, he moves into a different plane of consciousness. It is very difficult to interact because the rules of this consciousness will be different from the rules there.
Okay.
So it is very difficult for people to take support from departed souls, actually. So that is what he's telling, that this, of course, this letter was written when he was alive. So he's asking people to take maximum advantage of his physical presence because the help which he can do is enormous, actually.
Right, sir.
That is the idea.
It means now those who are doing sadhana, they should go back to their trainer on this purpose if they need be. Like
trainer will be capable of helping you. And then, of course, now it will be difficult when compared with the times when Babuji was physically present, because his mind was very purified and he was the greatest master. So his will was very, very, unfailing will. If you made a suggestion that you would reach the goal in a certain time and all that, and if you cooperate properly by practicing correctly, success was 100%. Now it will be more on the determination and willpower of the Abhyasi himself, with the support of whoever trainer is capable of helping you.
Okay. Right, sir. Thank you. Thank you.
We'll go ahead. Attachment and faith. Sita had a parrot. She loved it very much. It died. Her father, Raja Janak, loved his daughter Sita greatly. So because of her, he began to be grieved too. That may bring some to the conclusion that a great saint like Raja Janak was unduly attached to the petty parrot. But whatever may be their justification for it, I believe that if one does not feel grieved at the distress of others, he is devoid of the common sense of humanity, or, in other words, he is not a man at all. I do not therefore agree with those self-styled Gyanis who induce people to consider father, mother, brothers, or son as their enemies. On my part, I shall never be prone to follow that principle at any cost. Whatever may be their view, in my opinion, they are but dragging people into entanglements by preaching to them what might finally be ruinous to their sacred cause. The practice, if taken up, would promote feelings of hatred and repulsion, which are equally detrimental to our spiritual purpose. What is really essential for the pursuit is the subjugation of the feelings of Maya, Moha, or physical attachment. But hatred or repulsion is the very opposite of love, and attachment also belongs to the same category, or more appropriately, is the other extremity of the same thing. Thus, the replacement of attachment by its opposite, repulsion or hatred, is absurd, and by doing so, one can never be free from the feelings of Maya Moha. Its right replacement can only be by duty, which is free from both attraction and repulsion. Hence, there is nothing wrong if one treats father as father, mother as mother, and son as son, looking into the due discharge of one's duty towards them. He shall then be free from both the feelings. That is, in fact, what it really ought to be. Take a pause here. Any questions? We'll go ahead. I wonder how people begin to take even the very primary attainment as all and sufficient for them and become arrogant about it. Though, on the other hand, they would preach a lot against pride and arrogance from their platforms. Their impractical knowledge of the scriptures may probably be responsible for it. Generally, those who undertake to coach others in spirituality before they themselves have made any practical attainment in the spiritual field are often a prey to this evil. Pride or arrogance constitutes an additional link in the existing chain of egoism. As a safeguard against this gross evil, one should keep himself directly in touch with God through sincere prayer as it is described, as it is prescribed in our mission. If one neglects this elementary principle, I believe he is not the least interested in the pursuit, but has taken it up only by way of recreation or amusement. Firm resolve and dauntless courage are the essential features of a manly character. That is what is required for the final success. But my advice in this respect usually gets unheeded. It may perhaps be because of my insufficiency in the literary knowledge, which people generally value most in an accomplished soul. Learning and knowledge have their own importance, and people having it are often held in high esteem. I too have a regard for them, and for that reason, I usually behave submissively with them, exalting them in all formal ways. But on my part, I never did hanker after knowledge. Yet, to be quite outspoken, I may say that I do not feel myself lacking in knowledge in any respect, and I do possess it in its fullness. The reason is that my great master had transmitted to me everything that he possessed, and that included knowledge as well. For that reason, I feel myself immensely in possession of every type of knowledge, from the lowest to the highest. Though I may be lacking in the use of technical words in my expression, but it is my meekness of nature and disposition which I have copied from my master that keeps it veiled under covering. As a matter of fact, knowledge picked up from books or scriptures is no knowledge at all in the real sense of the word. It is simply erudition based upon others' experiences, attainment of the brain alone, and not the practical knowledge based on self experience and attainment of heart. Let this serve as a guiding light to the true seekers of the real knowledge. With me, it was so, because instead of striving for the attainment of knowledge, I remained ever in pursuit of Him, my divine Master, who was the storehouse of knowledge and perfection. This is the reason why I have never been off from reality in all my thoughts and expressions. I had entered the field with a burning desire to see the end of love, which I bore for my master, and I did have it in full. Anything to add? Yes, so we'll go ahead.
Yeah.
Duty, though it is undoubtedly a folly to think oneself too wise, it is a greater folly to think oneself too foolish or weak. We must try to dedicate ourselves, as we may be, to the remembrance of God, abiding by His commands, which are almost the same for everyone. They comprise the essential features of one's normal duties. Advice to ladies: punctuality of time for puja is not possible in the case of ladies because of their varied duties and is hence not insisted upon in their case. They may, however, utilize their spare time for the purpose. That is a special allowance in their case. Besides, if they go on with their household work with the thought that they are doing their duty in compliance with God's command, it shall be all it shall all be transformed into puja, and they shall be with it all the while without any conscious effort on their part. Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. You say that you often get irritated for petty reasons. You must have read in your books a lot against this evil. Still, you are not able to overcome it. Then, of what avail is your learning to you? It is related to Swami Ramakrishna Paramahamsa that while still a boy at an infant school, he was one day given a certain lesson to learn. It was always speak the truth. He went on with it. Whenever the teacher asked him whether he had learned the other day's lesson or not, he only replied, "Not yet, sir." After some time, he told the teacher that he had learned the lesson well. In a sense of surprise, the teacher asked him why he took so much time to learn the small line. The boy replied meekly that he could not learn to adopt it in the normal routine of his life till then. Idolatry. You have written in your letter about 5 types of idols, defining each of them. I am giving you one more kind of idolatry pointed out by my master. He said that if a man is a slave of his habits, he is also an idolater. I go on further to say that if we suppose anything and it does not exist, that is also idolatry. If a man loves his family, children, and so on, he is also an idolater. Any attachment towards material things is idolatry. How can it be abolished altogether? It is possible only when the thought does not make any such impressions. If it comes, it is thrown back automatically. But such is the case after a long reach. We should avoid the worship of concrete things so that we may rise above and catch it. There are men who, even if any practical hint for realization be given, will not leave idolatry of the rocky type. There are few examples of Abhyasis with me, whom I showed practically, but momentarily the state of realization. They felt it and appreciated it very much, but they are not prepared to leave their idols because they have become habituated to it and their wisdom has become quite blunt. They have already lost discriminatory power, and that is the cause of our downfall. When the power of discrimination goes away, fear sets in. They will not leave idolatry because their forefathers have been doing it all along. This is one thing. Another is this. They think if they leave it, some calamity will befall them. This is our tragic story. Anything to add? Laziness. It is my strange experience that laziness can also breed cancer. I have come to the point that laziness is surrender to the self. In other words, a lazy man surrenders to the self, which is suicidal for spiritual growth. I'm also very lazy, but this is only in household work. Questions of changing outer circumstances. Feeling of withdrawal of power means something akin to nothingness. I do not want to have even power, but only its ultimate state. In that condition, the power, when it is required, is there. Personally, I am of the opinion that if we are deprived of all things necessary for the upkeep of worldly life, and in its place the inner life, which is worth having, is given to us, we are in no way the losers. On this path, I think the question of changing the outer circumstances does not fit in aptly. It is rather that the Abhyasi has to adapt himself to circumstances in order to practice submission to the divine will. The divine will is predominant and the circumstances are the results thereof. We have to learn to take them as divine gifts. Of course, I agree that it is not an easy job for a common man. So, the natural limitations appear to be most distressing to him. But instead of worrying over the circumstances, which are often beyond his control, it is better to apply his effort for the mending of his grosser self. But the difficulty is that most of those who come for spiritual pursuit, as they profess, are inwardly actuated by material purposes which they wish to have adjusted according to their liking and taste. If they do not have it, they break off. And even if they have it, they will not stick on. because their purpose is served. There have been several cases like that. My master's ways of spiritual training are absolutely free from any material touch. I know that certain saints do offer such material allurements and that they are often successful to some extent. But it is definite that to do this, they have to deviate from the right path and resort to unspiritual ways, which for me would be the bitterest pill to swallow. I strictly abide by the direction laid down by my master and shall not like to adopt unspiritual ways at any cost. Any questions?
Sir, I have a query. A very uncomfortable to answer, but now they say idolatry should not be done. Apart from idolatry, there are several ceremonies, procedures which normally we do, like in marriages, some pujas they do, and father's ceremonies, mother's ceremonies. I know this is very difficult to or very uncomfortable to respond on this, but how these all procedures should be taken? Should they need to be, I don't know, to be continue to be done, need not be done? What should be the resolve on these issues, sir? Or it depends on each one's understanding of the issue. How?
These are social customs in which you are placed. So there are certain pressures from the society for you to perform these activities. But we know that those things are very superficial. They will not help in the transformation of the mind. Because if you want, we take to spirituality in order to mold our mind so that it is in harmony with God's mind. So that will not be possible. So you do it as a convention, that's all, without any attaching any significant importance to it. Unless if you know all those Sanskrit mantras and all that, if your mind is involved in it, and if you understand the idea behind the mantras which are being told and done correctly, then the other people will benefit because of your spiritual skills.
Right.
Otherwise, it's just a drama, that's all.
Thank you, sir. Thank
you. Breathing. You need not stop the breath yourself when meditating. If it stops by itself, it is well and good. When the flight gets very high, it often happens that there will be no breath for even hours. And when thoughtlessness is created, the breathing gets slowed down. Duty and desire. Desire can be stated as the fulfillment of which brings pleasure to the heart, while its non-fulfillment brings sorrow, misery, and pain. And the enjoyer of it is you alone, and yourself alone, the doer. Duty is the carrying out of the commandment with non-attachment with the motive. Muhammad Ghazni had a slave named Ayaz, whom he loved very much. The other courtiers did not like this behavior of the king. Someone asked the king, "Why do you love Ayaz so much?" After some time, the king asked every one of courtiers to smash down the very costly tree of diamonds which he had brought from India, and which was hung from the ceiling of the court hall. But none of his courtiers touched it. Then the king called Ayaz and commanded him to break down the diamond tree. Ayaz obeyed the command immediately and smashed it to pieces. The king told courtiers, "Only because of this I love Ayaz. He considered it his duty to obey my command and never bothered about the profit or loss. Therefore, duty cannot be called as desire. It is my earnest desire that my satsangis should advance more than myself. But all this depends upon their love, labor, and the grace of God. When there is love and labor, then the link does move, and our jingling shall certainly reach the master." So this is surrendering to the will of the master.
It's talking about duty, nishkama karma,
Duty.
not surrender.
Okay.
That is, karmane karaste mahafaleshu kadachana. That's the idea.
Waiting. Waiting is also a sort of intense remembrance which is greatly beneficial to spirituality. A poet too has written, "The delight which I found in waiting for the beloved, I could not have in the meeting." Orthodoxy. I consider orthodoxy to be just like a wall one has erected in front of himself, by which the way is barred. This thing somehow comes, and this defect has come into us by observing the Muslims continuously. Otherwise, we had such a river flow that not a single particle could stagnate. Impressionability. It is impossible that these things may not make an impression upon the brain at some time. Whatever gets into the mine of salt becomes itself salt. You will come across the intellectual class in some parts of our country. They love their own sentiments. I am yours. You have written, "Please give me that thing which you consider essential for me." And further, I hope you shall certainly give it. The worldly answer for this is that when I am yours, everything that is mine is already yours, and my real desire is to sell myself away. But no customer seems to be forthcoming. It is because I have fixed no price for myself. And such are the times that none wants to have me even free. And in a way, this too is all right. What should one do with a handful of bones? नानक बूढ़े बैल को कौन बांध बुझ दे? O Nanak, who would maintain and feed an old ox? So, dear brother, please get yourself ready to buy me so that I may not go on hawking myself from house to house. And dear brother, the desire for good health and wealth is there in everybody to some extent. This is a fact beyond doubt, but you have got the desire for that which is yours alone and which is with you, and hence you are more worried for it. You asked as to how to develop faith. If some trust is put in the trainer, and some benefit is felt due to him, this will begin to develop faith in the heart of a real seeker. Any questions? Go ahead. Reason and feeling. You have asked a very intricate question. When do reason and feeling become one? The short reply for it would be both Layla and Majnu live in the same place. बाहम लैला व मजनू एक ही महमिल में रहते हैं. You may consider their combination as that of body and soul, or of mind, manas, and intellect, buddhi. Both are almost necessarily coexistent. Further on, reason takes a different form, which is called divine wisdom. And when this happens, the form of feeling also gets changed. That is, the feeling also begins to get in conformity with it. One will be the person who shows, and the other will be the informer. I shall say one more thing. The feeling is very closely connected with the soul, and the intellect enjoys the closeness of the feeling. In other words, the feeling is nearer to soul, while the intellect is nearer to the feeling. Nothing will go away, but only its proper use begins. Your constant remembrance is not pertaining to intellect, but pertains to the heart. Please pester the learned about reason and feeling. They shall give a good reply. My reply is that of an unlearned one. Constant remembrance is not felt, but it is done, and you already know the method. Anything to add? So we'll go ahead. Faith. The meaning of faith is that one should firmly link up his thought with the courage of the teacher. Faith itself is existence or substratum on which realization begins. Faith is that unbreakable link which once established cannot be broken. An Abhyasi who does not develop faith can never progress. We have no faith in the oneness of God. We are partly influenced by environment and partly spoiled by association. Western culture also made an impact to a certain extent. Thus, when it had already deteriorated, wrong spiritual training completed our fall, with the result that we were separated thousands of miles from spirituality. Thriftiness. Try to be as thrifty as possible. By thrift, I do not mean miserliness, such as to inconvenience the children. Doubting. Whoever comes here goes on doubting only and keeps on judging it by making his ability the tool of testing its heat and cold. And there is neither heat nor cold here. They then start to take work from their imagination and arrive at some conclusion or other. As they enter with doubt, the same thing takes them to undependable conclusions. Few who found Few are found who can tell the truth, and there are many who represent falsehood as reality. Avoid meat eating. My master used to say that a spiritual man should not eat meat. I follow the same policy. Indeed, there have been some saints who used to eat meat. Meat eating should be avoided. Trainer's discipline. If the trainer lacks discipline, he is no more fit for the job. Trainer's insult, if taken seriously, is my master's insult.
We'll stop here. Next, we'll read. So many good points out there.
Okay. Yeah. Any questions? Anything?
Actually wanted to share something.
Yeah.
So that point was there, no? About burning on a dead flame.
Yeah. Yes.
I think that was written in context to an Abhyasi. And that part, like, it's a tough nut to crack if you try to develop attachment after master is physically gone. We should interpret that in the right light, like it's written contextually, because presence of master is vividly felt even today, right? So we are in no way disadvantaged if we dedicate ourselves to develop attachment with him.
That is true. The point is, during his physical presence, his influence is very strong, and the benefit which comes during his physical presence was immense. Even now the presence is felt, but then it is more the scientific aspect of the regulation of the mind, which is a science in itself. If your mind is linked to the divine light, gradually that potency will keep on developing in your mind. Gradually mind will get regulated, there's no doubt about it. But then if a he was basically, Babuji was a trainer only, and the trainer with special will, and there is a power in the will of different people of different capacities. So when he was alive, definitely it was different, but now it is still possible. We are all experiencing. I am practicing since a long time. I feel that my mind is coming under control, even without Babuji's physical presence. There's no doubt about that at all. But the point here is, he was probably feeling that people were not taking spirituality with a sense of urgency, or with the sense of priority, or a sense of passion or commitment to the goal. And he was feeling that, that they're missing his services. That's the only point he's trying to make. That's all.
Yeah, yes, that is understood.
Yeah.
I just don't want sister to ask
that
question.
Was the point. What you're saying is that's all our practical experience. We are all meditating, and we are finding that our mind is getting disciplined. There's no personal
the support is still vividly there, as much as it was there during his physical time through pranahoti.
No, now the problem is, the whole problem of spiritual training is basically the grossness. Grossness is gone. God is already there with you. He will express himself through all these 5 koshas. So for removing the grossness, you require a brother who is willing to do that service to you. So that aspect will not be there from Babuji's side. His blessings will be there. You can read the spiritual training, Impulse from a Departed Soul, then you'll understand everything.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
We'll meet next Sunday.